Hey guys, it's your girl Earlene here with Leanie Travels and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're gonna be talking about what it is like to travel during a pandemic. Before we jump in, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, Leanie Travels, and don't forget to turn on your post notifications so that you won't miss any of my uploads. Let's talk a little bit about what you will need for your trip. Number one, you need a mask. Please don't go showing up to the airport without your mask. It's almost like you're setting yourself up not to catch your flight. Most airlines require you to have a mask prior to boarding. Prior to entering the airport, you must have your mask. Number two, you definitely need to have your sanitizer with you, just so that you know once you're finished touching everything there at the airport, going through security, you can sanitize and wipe things down. Number three, the next thing you can add to your list is some wipes. I normally travel with baby wipes anyway, but I've added like Lysol wipes to my travel requirement list now, just because of coronavirus. And when you get to your seating area on the plane, you can be extra cautious and may want to wipe things down. You know, if you have something with you and it falls, you pick it up and you want to wipe that down as well. Number four, I will say walk with snacks. Prior to COVID, I walk with snacks anyway because I'm always hungry. But I've had friends who have traveled outside of the United States, and one of the things that they notice getting to the countries in the Caribbean is that the lines can sometimes be long, especially if you didn't follow the proper protocol by getting the correct test. You have to go there and wait on them to administer your test. You want to make sure that you have snacks with you. I know the airplane probably gave you like one little pretzel, but that's not enough, especially if you have hungry babies traveling with you. You want to make sure that you have enough snacks that will keep you throughout your trip. So definitely add snacks to your list if you get hungry like myself. Lastly, I'm just going to talk about things that you will need on the flight. I take my blanket, my pillow, and my headphones with me. I know some airlines would give them for free. Some will allow you to pay for it. But like I said, because of COVID, they're not really doing that right now. So make sure you have those things with you. So now that we have things that you will need for your trip, let's get down into airport procedures. Number one, the airport. Oh my gosh, if I can say I am super excited that a lot of people are not traveling, I'm super excited because normally whenever I travel, airport lines are long. You have to wait, especially at Miami International Airport. If you're taking an international flight from Miami, you know wait time is typically 2 to 3 hours once you disembark your international flight. So I cannot stress how happy I am that the lines are not super long. Pre-check lines, I cleared Orlando TSA pre-check in less than 2 minutes, and I am not even exaggerating. So the lines are definitely shorter and they're a breeze going through the airport. The only thing, once you get inside of the airport, the shops, you know, they're closed, food places are closed, entertainment within the airport are closed, so it is not as busy. And I know it's sad because some of these businesses really depend on traffic coming through the airport to stay afloat, so that's the only sad thing about not having a lot of traffic through the airport.
So here's a perfect example of what I was explaining to you earlier when I said most of the locations to eat are closed. I'm very sad because this was one of my favorite spots to come and get something to eat, especially for vegans. You know, your food options are limited, so you definitely want to make sure you're bringing your snacks with you.
All right, let us jump into once you get on the plane. Some companies are still practicing their social distancing measures by blocking the middle seat. I know Delta and Southwest are two of those companies that are doing that. American Airlines, not so much. And you guys know I fly American Airlines a lot. They're not blocking the middle seats. So that's one disappointment when it comes to traveling on American Airlines for me right now. Luckily, I'm an Advantage Gold member, so I get to select where I want to sit down whenever I travel if I don't book in basic economy. So I typically book my flight and then just before I leave, check to see which row is completely empty so that I can get the entire row to myself. All right, next we're going to talk about COVID testing. Many countries have reopened their borders and you're allowed to travel there now because, you know, the economy depends on tourists coming there. Some Caribbean countries are open, like Jamaica, Aruba is opening their borders. I believe Cayman is opening on October 1st because I was trying to book a trip there in September and I couldn't. Antigua is open. That's my hometown, so you can always visit Antigua. Mexico is wide open. You don't require a COVID test to go to Mexico, but majority of those other places that I've listed, you do require COVID testing. The Caribbean on a whole, they're not equipped to handle a mass outbreak like the United States have. So they have been really protective with their borders, you know, coming in and out of the Caribbean. So most Caribbean islands are requiring you to get COVID tested. I will say most of these islands are not accepting that rapid antigen testing. They want you to have a PCR test, which is probably why I have not traveled to a lot of the Caribbean islands right now, because I don't want anything down my nose. I'm going to cry like a baby. You have to get a PCR test for most of those Caribbean islands prior to your arrival. And if you do happen to take the antigen and then travel to the Caribbean, they're going to have you retake the PCR test. For most of the states in America, you don't have to get COVID tested to travel there. It's considered a domestic flight, but some states are still requiring you to 14-day quarantine if you have been to like a hot state. So like if you travel to Texas and then you're going to New York, you have to do a 14-day quarantine. I do know I have a lot of Caribbean people following me. So if you Caribbean people want to travel to the United States, you do not have to get tested before you leave the island to come here. But once you're returning home, you may have to have that. Well, you do have to have that COVID test done. You can get it for free in certain states, but the lines are ridiculously long. People were lined up from 2 a.m. in the morning and we're sitting in line for 6 hours. I decided, you know what? I'm not even going to bother trying to get into the free testing line. You can also pay for testing. I work at a healthcare organization and people are able to walk into our clinics and get tested. You have to pay a fee. So there's that. If you do decide to come to the US, make sure you put aside your money to have your COVID testing done prior to your return home. The other thing that I want to address, I know a lot of people travel for their little goodie bags, snack bags from the airline. They're not serving anyone throughout the flight. So I know for American Airlines, because that's the airline that I have flown since the pandemic, they give you like a little goodie bag before you get to your seat, and that will keep you throughout your flight. And in your goodie bag, you may have like pretzels. What's the other thing? They stopped giving the Biscoff, which I'm sad about, but you can get your pretzels and a bottle of water prior to your flight.
So false alert, American Airlines is still serving Biscoff cookies.
I had the option to upgrade to first class for one of my flights, and I declined it because if I'm flying first class, I want my full service. I want my meal, I want my drinks, everything. I want it all. But because of COVID, they're not really doing that for the first class customers. So in my head, I'm like, what is the point of going into first class, risking the chance of having someone sit next to me, because you know there are only 2 seats, and if first class is full, you will have someone next to you, versus me going to the back of the plane and possibly getting an empty row for myself. So yes, I declined my first class travel. Now, if I was going home to Antigua, I probably would consider going first class, just because everybody and their mama want you to bring something home. There is one thing that I want to talk about that the pandemic has brought about, which I'm super excited for. Most airlines have now moved towards waiving the change fee for your flights. That is like huge. In the past, a change fee for like American Airlines or Delta, you're talking about $150 to $200. Southwest have always been good to us because they don't charge you to change your flight. Once you're making the change 10 minutes prior to departure, you can change your flight for free. Obviously, you will have to pay the difference for whatever the airfare is, but I love Southwest for that reason and for the fact that they give you 2 bags. But American Airlines now have no change fee. Even if you book your travel with your awards, you can change your flight without incurring that charge for the change fee. So that is one plus that the pandemic has brought about. How long it's going to last, I don't know, because things change on a whim. But for now, just know that if you book a flight and you have to change it, you can do it for free. Some of these planes have a whole sanitizing session prior to the next flight. So once you have departed your flight, before they fly again, they have a crew that goes in and sanitize with the spray. They sanitize every single seat. So that is kind of cool, to keep down the spread of coronavirus. And I like the fact that they do that. Let's see, what else can I think of to share with you for pandemic travel? Oh, flights are super, super cheap. I have traveled for $30 round trip I got a flight for $30 round trip to Atlanta. I mean, tickets that were normally $700-800 for international travel are suddenly $400-300. So if you want to capitalize on cheap flights, definitely now is the time to do it. And even if you don't plan to travel right away, you can book it out in advance. So now that I have given you the lowdown on traveling during a pandemic, I hope that it has brought some insightful information that will help you to decide whether or not you will be traveling. Let me know in the comments if you have taken a trip, if there's anything that you have noticed and would like to share with my followers. Go ahead and leave a comment below. I'll try to respond to all of them. Don't forget, like and subscribe to my channel if you would like to continue seeing videos like this one from me, Lini Travels. Bye.